Anyway, so let's talk a little bit of let's talk about the is that how you pronounce it? You know, the superhero team.
Yeah.
The
Fantastic Four.
I thought you were going to go into a Jerry Lewis thing.
No. The fan, the nice, the good. There's four of them. The good, the nice punching four with powers that are nice, good. One's a rock man. Anyway.
Okay.
I can't see how anyone can look at that trailer and go, it's going to be shit. It's not.
It looks so cool. And one thing I just want to say really quickly before we dive into this.
State it.
One of the things that I just sticks out at me from watching the whole thing is
that they put the name of the movie in the score. That's pretty awesome. Fantastic.
No, it's New York. It's like that version of New York, and getting to see way more, because we got a tease of it in that first teaser. A tease and a teaser of what, it basically is like 1960s New York with all these fictional things added to it. And not only is it the Jetson-esque buildings and stuff, but we've got monorails running through the city. Yes. We got a monorail running underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, like a hanging train.
Yep.
So cool. There's these huge screens in Times Square that look like giant TV sets.
Yes. It's like we have now, but filtered through 1960
but like
vision.
they're giant CRT screens, I guess, basically. And they have the same frame that old TV sets had around them. It's
Reed
nuts.
Changed the whole world.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's the guy responsible for all the tech in that Earth, but it does seem like there's a split off in their 1950s or 60s that leads to this kind of a world. And I love it. I love that they just went full bore. They didn't just say, we'll do it in a period piece. This is period piece plus that aesthetic of like pumped up what the comic artists would have imagined was futuristic, and I love that.
Yeah.
So yes, all the detail, and also just the fact that, again, I always art direction, and it's the same thing I was talking about with the Superman thing. Just the fact that the clothes, the color schemes, what they're shooting everything in blues and whites, and it's just they like had this aesthetic. They're like, we're gonna stick to it. And anytime there's orange, it's like, or like wood tone, it's going to be kind of reminiscent of Ben. So it's like, oh yeah, it's just blue, white, and orange. And I love it. Yeah. So Fantastic Four trailer came out, and it starts with Stan Lee's ghost going, when I first came up with the idea, Jack, bless his heart, he was busy. He didn't have anything to do with it. I sat there and I said, what if there was not one or two, but what if there was four people and they were really fantastic and they have the powers and it's fascinating. And I even drew them, and Jack came in the room and was like, oh, that's good, Stan. he wasn't quite that bad, but I mean, yeah. In fact, he often would say it was a lot of Jack. He goes, we pitched this around, but I had the idea for a group, and a lot of the ideas of powers and so forth came from Jack. But famously, the Fantastic Four, why this is so exciting for, nerdy fans, it's because they are the reason Marvel exists. Stan Lee was about to quit. He was literally the last guy in the office, essentially holding up Marvel Comics. DC was booming because they had the brilliant idea not only to bring back some of the Golden Age people, but reinterpret them. Like the Flash is now a different guy, but it's still the Flash, kind of. And Justice League. So a team book where they put them all together. I'm giving a history lesson, Chad. Just hang in there. So, and you already know all this. But the whole thing is that basically Stan was like, he talked to his wife and she said, just take a swing. You've got one idea, go ahead and do it, because no one cares. The managing editor is like, whatever. So why don't you go ahead and take a shot? And he came up with Fantastic Four with Jack. And that was literally the book that it sold. And he's like going, well, that did it. And then it just started everything, because it's like the gates went up and he's like, okay, Spider-Man, a Hulk person. We're going to bring out Captain America. He was in ice. So they're important. And I'm glad that looks like they're getting their just desserts.
Yes.
Okay. Now to trailer time.
So it opens with what some people have described as like, this is like apparently this world's version of Ed Sullivan, Ted Gilbert.
Yeah.
Played by none other than Mycroft Holmes himself, Mark Gatiss.
Yes. And he does such a very good American accent here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
Brits.
that's, I mean, if someone deep dives and goes, oh, that's an actual character from Fantastic Four #4 or something, I will bow to you, because as far as I know, I don't know if that's a character from the actual comics. Probably not. They just
And to harken forward a little bit, we see later that, you know, they're guests on a show.
Yeah.
That's saying, well, we have so much, we owe them so much thanks and so forth. Apparently shit goes down while they're on the show. We see later.
because you see Human Torch, Johnny leaving that theater and bursting into flame. Yeah. So something happens then.
We get some flashbacks to their first flight, a little brief explainer of, you know, they went up and got these powers and so forth. They were forever changed, etc. We get this cute shot of the Thing picking up a Volkswagen Beetle.
I love the whole thing
of
these kids. What I like is Ben feeling like a monster is such a essential thing in early Fantastic Four. But even the comics, and they're doing this like the comics always had the public. Some would be freaked. You'd have like little ladies going, oh, he's such a gross. But they very often would show that all the public loved the guy. It's just like, oh, yeah, he looks like a rock guy, but he's a hero. And kids especially. So these kids are like, they're cheering him on. They're like, pick up that car. He goes, which one? This one?
Yeah.
And then he picks up the Volkswagen and he just goes, he likes that the kids love him.
It reminds me a little bit of, I forget which Spider-Man movie it is, where Zach Cherry playing a guy on the street, he yells at Spider-Man, hey, do a backflip.
That's right. He's like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah. I love especially all that stuff, man, the MCU, when they do it right, and that's Sony, but with Marvel influence. But the whole thing of him like sitting there and just making his little messages to Tony Stark and going, I stopped a bike thief and I got stopped for a churro. It's really good.
Yeah.
The neighborhood Spider-Man, great stuff. So in this case, some people got real not arch, but they're like going, very clever, Mr. Feige, because it's going up against Superman. And Ben is picking up a green car.
Yeah. Which resembles a little bit the car.
A little bit, yeah. Like that's a Nash or something. He's not slamming it to the ground either, but yes, he's picking up a green car a la Action Comics #1. Yeah. So, nice. What happens next?
There's a montage of people saying, thank you, Fantastic Four.
Yes. I love the guy who just tips his coffee at him. Because they're like, thank you, Fantastic Four. And you get this one cool guy who's just going, yeah.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah, and all these shots just look great. The color grading, everything just looks very vintage, nostalgic, accurate to the time. So then we see the Fantastic Four actually on the Ted Gilbert show, and then we kind of get into the trailer proper, which picks up with some of the stuff we saw in the first teaser.
Yeah,
they're in the kitchen and Herbie and the Thing are cooking together. But then we also see here
Johnny coming and grabbing cereal.
Yeah, and it's Lucky Charms. which I think has Fantastic Four. Yeah, it has him on it.
Oh,
it has. And I think somebody said it's an actual Jack Kirby drawing of the Human Torch.
Oh, how cool!
Is on the box, so it's very cool. So then he gets on the case for being late to dinner, and he's having cereal for dinner. I just realized that.
Yeah, Sue and Reed come in, and he goes, "You're late," and there's an instant like, "Uh-oh!" She's like, "What?
What do you mean late?" Yeah,
it's like late for dinner. And she goes, yeah, but Ben is, of course, real sharp. And Ben's like going, you're late?
Pregnant?
And it's like, yeah, are you pregnant? It's so great. So, again, they, similar to Superman, they have the TV show, obviously, that's where we'll get all the archival footage. And we'll get the origin. It's just in the background. But they've obviously been around for a while. Yeah. Because they're jumping right into the pregnant Sue. Here comes Franklin. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, wow. Yeah, they're moving ahead. So yes, that's the whole thing is she goes, he's like, yes, we're pregnant. And Johnny jumps up. He's like, yes.
Yeah. And is it just me? I'm curious if anybody, I haven't seen anybody else say this, but I'm sure I'm not the only person. I'm getting very strong Tony Stark vibes from Joseph Quinn's performance, especially when he says, "You're gonna be a great dad." Just kidding. You're out of your depth.
You are gonna be the best dad. Just kidding. You are out of your depth.
Yeah. That's so Tony Stark. That's such an RDJ delivery.
I just think that he is, as in the comics, he's Flip. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
He also does kind of resemble, I would say, a young RDJ. It reminds me a little bit of the CGI young Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, yeah.
And I forget which Avengers movie that is.
Yeah. That was that Civil War?
Where there's the
virtual
environment that he's
environment,
displaying.
and he goes back, and it's just to relive like the last moments with his parents.
So that doesn't really mean anything, but it just shows that a little bit of, because I haven't seen Joseph Quinn perform anything other than Eddie on Stranger Things before,
it's just interesting to see him without the long, ratty hair.
We also learned he's playing George Harrison in these new Beatle movies that are coming out in a couple of years. So I kind of get the impression, I haven't seen much of him now, but I'm getting the vibe that he's one of these actors who has a lot of different gears and kind of disappears into roles. That's kind of what I'm getting.
I know nothing about him other than he's one of those guys where we were all waiting for someone like him. He took a supporting part in a very, very popular show. It's not like he came up out of nowhere, but to come in there and just own every scene he's in against these characters that we love, and you're like, oh my God, Eddie is kind of the boss. So yeah, it's not surprising that he went straight to the top, and happy to have him there. Yeah, and if they tone down his I'm a wild cat and horn dog thing, that's fine too, because he's already winning, and he's funny, and he'll be a good Johnny. I have no doubt.
Yeah,
I don't have any doubts.
And so, okay, then we get to, there's a scene of the thing exploding this guy. This is back when you were thinking, could this actually be like the Watcher trying to hide Earth from Galactus?
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? But there's this huge explosion in the sky, which apparently is concurrent with Silver Surfer showing up, because the next scene is they're in Times Square to greet her.
Yeah, and
they're in the same
Sue
clothes.
Is clearly pregnant.
Yeah, she's very much showing by this point. They're wearing the same clothes they are in that scene on the balcony, so they ran over to Times Square. I don't know how they knew to go to Times Square. But you can see this, the Silver Surfer's, she's on the TV behind her, so the whole world's focus is on Times Square.
And she basically does the whole thing of are you the protectors of this world?
Yeah.
And it's, again, this is where idiots get upset that Sue speaks for them and goes, yes, we are. Here's the thing. One thing that I'm picking up on watching the teaser, watching this, and I'm okay with this interpretation. Reed is a classic, I'm not going to say absent-minded, but he's a genius. He's obsessed with all the stuff. He is responsible for them. And when called upon to be Hero Man, he's going to be there. But from the trailers, I am picking up on he is, not going to be the snap guy. And if Sue has that position where she will speak for them, maybe she calls out, like, let's do this and let's do this, I'm fully on board. It's like, I love Sue Storm and her having agency, and not that she was, well, you go back and read those early Fantastic Fours and she's like, oh no, Galactus is here and I was getting my hair done. It's that kind of stuff. You're like, okay, I'm all right if we don't go all the way back to that.
Right.
But having her being like, I will be sort of the leader of the group, I have no problem with. So I like the fact that, and Reed gets those moments, like later on the trailer, which we'll get to with the whole, are we going to be okay? Are we going to be safe? And he goes, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I love vulnerable Reed. It's not a bad look on Reed Richards to be vulnerable and kind of like, I'm going to do the best I can.
Well, this just shows how some people are just tuned in to this stuff so acutely because they're just, how don't you dare
yes, exactly,
demasculate any male character because it offends me. I didn't even pick up on that. I'm like, I don't care. I don't think that. I mean, my impression is that they're sort of co-equal leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. And he gets the awesome last line of the trailer where he's very much, and when they group up on TV, he's right there. It's sort of, we know that he's Mr. Fantastic. But yeah, him saying like, we will protect you. I mean, that is selling Reed Richards' Hero Man.
There's plenty of authoritative moments for him in this trailer. So I really don't understand why he's just looking for things to complain about.
That's exactly it.
I will say, I mean, I this is not really a complaint, but I think Shia LaBeouf would look a lot cooler if she didn't have hair. And I know that she's drawn with hair in the comics when she was the surfer, but the Silver Surfer aesthetic is the sleek, no hair.
Except just for Norrin Radd is bald, but it was bald before he became Silver Surfer. So I think it's whatever you are
when they transform.
Yeah, and then you're naked.
Yeah, so that's a
just
total
coated in chrome.
That's a total nitpick, teeny weeny nitpick. Then she flies away and she phases straight through this helicopter, which I think is really cool.
Yeah,
and Johnny follows her.
This is exactly and I will say Tim Story did the exact same thing. They're both doing tribute to the first appearance of Silver Surfer. Clearly, Johnny's the one who could pursue.
Yeah.
He does follow her right up to the atmosphere, and then he just runs out of oxygen, and the flame starts to go, and it's so cool looking.
Yeah.
He gets his hand right on the board.
Just from sheer momentum at that point, obviously, because he's like, okay.
Yeah, and then she like flips him off. And then he just goes, oh, so cool.
And some people were saying that, maybe there's some dialogue there that they cut out of the trailer. If they're being nerdy enough, there shouldn't be any dialogue because he's not in the atmosphere.
He would not be able to do any. Given the Silver Surfer and the power cosmic, I'm sure that there's some way that the Silver Surfer can talk in space. I'm sure.
So maybe she says something. I kind of think maybe they just stare at each other for a second and then that happens. That would be cool enough. Because he gets all the way up there, is like, what are you going to do? There's nothing else he can do.
She's cold too, man. The whole thing of your world has been targeted for destruction. But just like in the comics and even in the first, or the Rise of the Silver Surfer, the second Fantastic Four movie, the Silver Surfer hates that job. And maybe here will also kind of help or end up being on the side of the Fantastic Four.
Right. Because Silver Surfer was never really a villain. He's under duress, essentially.
Exactly.
To save his planet, his own
planet.
And
then becomes, and then does the job, but is always looking for uninhabited worlds that his boss can eat.
And eventually splits with Galactus in the comics, too.
And Galactus takes away the ability for him to leave Earth's atmosphere, which is why Silver Surfer for a long time is trapped on Earth. Can still fly, but can't leave and go to other planets.
So then it really gets interesting here. It's clear from the subsequent shots that there is quite a time jump, because by the time Galactus shows up, it just seems like a lot has happened since then. They're suited up again, like they're going somewhere.
Don't assume that you're seeing the story in order. Yeah.
We see a bunch of people that look like they're underground and they're looking up at dust falling down. It could be when Galactus, we see him walking through the city later.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this is some part of a big plan that they had to try to save as many people as possible for when Galactus shows up, that they've sent it. When you can see Galactus walking through
maybe it's just literally
the city looks deserted.
Maybe it's literally rush hour crowds in the subway.
Possibly, yeah. But we can see that when Galactus is walking around, there's nobody on the streets. So
that's true.
Impression is they knew when he was coming back, and they evacuated the city somehow, or at least the streets.
I think in the comics, the reason they would evacuate New York is he starts in the comics. He just shows up and starts working. He has to build this machinery to liquefy the center of the planet he's about to eat or turn it into energy. So I always love this in the comic. And unfortunately with Cloud Actus in the second Fantastic Four movie, we didn't get this. But the deal is, we're so beneath his notice that when he shows up in the comics, he's standing on a couple of skyscrapers, like using them as platforms. He's got his huge machinery, which is the size of the Central Park or whatever, and he's putting it together. And the Fantastic Four are literally running around his feet trying to figure out what to do. And he doesn't pay them any mind.
Okay.
He's just building his stuff, and then it's kind of, again, the Watcher is the Deus Ex Machina.
I wonder if we're going to see that. Yeah,
I would love it, because he's the one that goes, look, there's a thing that he has in his ship, because he has all this high tech. There's this thing called the ultimate nullifier. It's the only thing he's afraid of. So get in his ship, get the ultimate nullifier, and then basically threaten him. And that's what they do. Reed Richards, with his stretchy arm, has to stretch it up so that Galactus can even see him. And he goes, I've got the ultimate nullifier. And the Galactus is like, well played, human. I'll get the hell out. Yeah, and don't ever come back because I'm keeping this thing. He's like, all right. And that's how the first... I'm paraphrasing. All right. and yes, also he, parts with the Silver Surfer. So, yeah, good stuff. I don't know if we're going to get all that. And I've got a theory.
Let's hear it.
I've got a theory they don't win.
A lot of people have been theorizing that, yeah.
One thing I do like about this trailer, the first one is delightful. The teaser trailer was delightful. I think this one, it's just like Superman. This one, they decided we need to show the stakes, or else people will think it's going to be this lighthearted romp in a superhero universe. So this one, showing Reed Richards going, we're running out of time, and also this is on me. I did it. I called attention to Earth by what I was doing, and that's why Galactus is here. And him at the chalkboard. I just don't think they're going to do a thing where he's able to save this Earth or this universe. Well, or if he shunts it somewhere, like he creates a bridge and somehow he's able to move the entirety of that universe to the MCU with 2 Earths. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, who knows?
I kind of think that maybe they lose and Galactus gets this Earth.
Well, there is a shot a few shots later where we see the ship heading towards, I guess, Earth, and it looks like Galactus is already eating the planet. There's this huge...
Well, yeah, there's a huge energy thing going on there.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
So who knows? Is that actually happening?
I don't know.
That's a huge spoiler if that's the case.
I would say it would be a real downer if that's how it ends.
Being destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who knows what that is?
What if it's a thing where the entirety of the FF in the MCU, when they get there, is them still trying to solve the problem? What if they're somehow kind of time traveling and they go to MCU and then their goal is to get back to their Earth,
save everybody,
and save it? I don't know. I'd hate for them to leave the MCU though, because I want them hanging out all the time.
Right.
It's a shame that Tony Stark's dead, because I always love a Reed Richards and Tony Stark, confab.
One thought I had too is that maybe they actually do succeed in saving Earth in this story, but the consequences are they have to leave Earth, and they for some reason they're forced to go to the 616, and that's the sacrifice they make.
But again, we also have Secret Wars coming up, which involves multiple universes or the multiverse. So it's quite possible that their Earth is saved somehow. Or maybe it's something where it's like, now we have to fight to save our Earth against another Earth. It's kind of crazy and over the top.
Nutty.
They're the only heroes, I believe, on this Earth. I mean, they're not, I don't think they've got their own Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the case. There's also an interesting shot here right after that Earth thing where we see Sue standing over a crib, which appears to be empty. It's like, I'm not sure if Franklin's probably not born yet.
He's on his way.
Then a really cool shot where you see Reed looking up at these, the planet mobile that's over the kids, kind of thinking, and at first I was thinking, is that like the kid Franklin making the planet? But they're just kind of dangling. I think he's just thinking about what he's going to do.
Oh, by the way, speaking of Deus Ex Machinas, Franklin could save everything. Franklin might stop Secret Wars. The whole thing about Franklin, if you guys haven't read the comics, is that their first child, Franklin, well, canonically now the first child is Valeria. That's changed from the old days. In the old days, Franklin's the first. Franklin, because his parents are, fantastic and all irradiated, he comes out as essentially a mutant, and his ability is he can just create universes. He's got crazy godlike powers, which is one of the reasons why Reed Richards goes to Charles Xavier when Franklin's young and is like, is there a way we can kind of put like a gate in his mind to not that he's evil, it's just it's too much power for a kid to have.
What if there's a twist where they're already in this universe that Franklin had created?
Oh, snap.
They find out at the end of the movie that he already saved them. It's just reverse time.
I love that idea. And if that's where they go, I'm totally on board. That's so awesome. Like it's its own pocket universe.
But for some reason, they do have to leave that pocket universe, and maybe Shia LaBeouf stays behind, or maybe they don't have to worry about any threats because Franklin has put them in this.
Guys, you should pin that moment because Chad may have called it, and that didn't even occur to me. That's a great idea, and would explain a little bit of the stylization of that world and that sort of stuff.
That would be a weird Deus Ex Machina thing, though. If that's the case, I hope that the agency of the four don't get sort of overridden by Franklin completely. Like everything they do just didn't make any difference because Franklin had already saved them from the future, sort of thing. So I hope we'll see. Well, it depends on how it's written, but that is kind of a neat idea.
I haven't bothered to look if they sometimes will hide casting because they're trying to not spoil things. So I didn't even look on like the IMDb if there is someone cast as Franklin. It's quite possible that it remains an infant. Mm-hmm. It's quite possible that he's just a baby at any point in the movie. But it'd be interesting to go look and see if someone was cast as that. Just like with someone cast as the Watcher. We still don't know if the Watcher's even going to show up in this. Yeah. I would think it would be a shame if he didn't. And this one doesn't have any of possible Red Ghost. This one doesn't.
Yeah, we didn't even. That's right. We didn't even see John Malkovich in this trailer, in this version. So,
and again, he may not be the Red Ghost. It's just he looks like him. What if he's Franklin from way in the future, and he's like going, "I saved you, Mom and Dad. Gotta go." And they're like, "Really? Our kid grows up to be John Malkovich?" And they look at each other and go, "Ooh, just joke. Love John Malkovich." So we are wildly speculating, and if you've watched any videos with us, you know that we tend to wildly speculate.
So then we get, and I wonder, we don't know in what order these shots are being shown, but we see this shadowed Galactus, passing over Manhattan, and then it cuts straight to the four, suited up in Times Square, looking up in the direction that he's walking from. It looks like, so that could be when he shows up there, and the streets also deserted streets in Times Square. So.
My confusion about the timeline actually has a lot to do with Sue's pregnancy. Because if she's showing when the Silver Surfer shows up, but then they're fighting Galactus and she's in a skin-tight outfit, she's not pregnant.
So Franklin's born by that point, yeah.
Possibly. We just don't know. But I will say, generally speaking, Silver Surfer shows up, says, again, this goes back to the comic, when the Silver Surfer shows up, says Galactus is on his way, that's like a few days. It's not like months later. Galactus is like, "Oh yeah, I was gonna eat Earth. Yeah, I really should do that." In the comics, it's literally like you've got 7 days, and Galactus is coming to eat the planet.
Isn't there? So I saw a video where somebody was talking about this. Was a what if story about, I think, of Fantastic Four, where they literally have 10 years, I think, or something like that. Oh, it's a different telling of the story.
Cool.
So maybe they're borrowing some stuff from that. It looks like maybe it's at least been 9 months.
At least let the lady give birth. And...
Well, not 9 months. No, they find out. Yeah, that's right. Silver Surfer shows up when she's showing. It looks like she's just about to give birth. So it could only be maybe a month or two.
Okay, I'm just saying she deserves some rest.
She does.
As a man, I can only guess you get a little tired giving birth.
So I've been trying to figure out the shot where they're in Times Square and they're looking up, presumably Galactus, we don't know. Behind them, it looks like they got there in the Fantastic car, but behind them is this spherical looking thing, which isn't, there's another shot after this of a train, looks like a train blowing up on the monorail, and that thing's not there. You can see it's the same spot in Times Square, and whatever that is in front of the TV set is not there. So I'm like, is that, what the hell is that?
No, I'm not, I don't have it up in front of me.
What is that thing?
I don't know what that thing is, Chad. I don't know.
Oh, sorry, I was just quoting Steve Martin in the. What the hell is that thing?
What the hell is that?
Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
But I do love. This is one of the many shots of Times Square in New York in general, where there's a monorail. It looks like there's an explosion on the monorail, and people are ducking. That everything in this shot of Times Square just looks so cool.
Mm-hmm.
You got the shot of the thing pulling the steamliner or the ship.
What is that
looks
about?
like it's on. Looks like the ship's on fire or something. And he's pulling it.
I don't
kind of
know.
reminiscent of that shot in the Snyderverse of Superman pulling
which I've already seen people post online side by side, and they're like going, "Oh, real original. Guess who did it first?" I'm like going,
who cares?
Name a super strong character in every comic going back to 1938 that hasn't pulled a ship or two. It's like, I'm sorry. It happens in Adventures of Baron Munchausen. What's his name? The big strong one is swinging like 3 different galleons by their chains. I'm like,
right.
It happens in movies occasionally. But
I will say, I really love the shot we mentioned earlier of them running out of the Ted Gilbert show studio.
Yes.
This probably is when Galactus shows up, because that's they're in the same suits. Looks like they're going to Times Square. Maybe this is right before that, because the Fantastic Four is parked right there, on the street. So anyway, but I really love the way that Johnny Flame's on here, where he kind of goes, he throws his arms down.
I've noticed, and he does the same thing in the other one when he jumps off the balcony. It's like he does this thing with his arms where he just. Boom.
I don't know if we've ever seen that before, but it's cool. Like, yes, that looks totally correct. You know,
yeah.
I don't know if that's ever been.
Clearly, would not. I mean, he could probably just stand there and then burst into flames and take off. But it's like Superman with the 3 steps, like in the Adventures of Superman, where it was always like 3 steps and then up.
Yeah.
So I do love the idea that Johnny's always like throwing his arms back and then whoosh. Do you think this movie might be harmful to kids, that they might get so, they idolize the heroes that they start gluing orange rocks onto their body? Okay, anyway, keep going.
The kids showing up in the emergency room with super glued rocks on their skin.
I want to be the Thing.
Anyway, so then we got this great shot of the Human Torch flying underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, where we see the train going. It's just another great shot of this fictional version of New York. Then the Thing looks like this is part of some plan. This is on the deserted streets of New York.
I don't know what this is.
He's running through the pillars of this building, an apparent effort to topple it for some reason. Yeah.
I mean,
really
this
cool.
Could be if Galactus is literally doing what we were talking, or what is in the comics, where he's on top of one of the skyscrapers putting this thing together.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
However, I'll say this much. It doesn't work, because Galactus, I think they tried the same thing in the comic. But the thing is, like, the building falls and Galactus is still just standing there. He's like, what, you didn't know I could levitate?
Yeah.
Again, direct quote. What, you didn't know I could levitate? I like a plain speaking Galactus, like, I'm hungry. Your planet looks nice. I'm not leaving till my belly's full. Okay? I'm sorry about all your little lives.
Yeah. So then we finally see Reed using his powers in this next shot.
We finally, and it's a good stretchy
And if you look closely,
he's
got some kind of device, like something he's built, some kind of weapon.
A nullifier that is ultimate.
Man, you think that's a nullifier? Is that what a nullifier looks like? It could be.
In the comics, I do think Jack Kirby always had great device designs, but the ultimate nullifier looks like a Scotch tape dispenser. You go back and look at it in the comics, it's handheld, and it's got this little like whoop thing at the top. And I'm like, Jack, I don't know. It'd be like me taking like this my grooming hair cream and just going, Galactus, get out. I've got it. I've got the ultimate nullifying hair gel. You think I won't use it? So it's a whack. That's what I was thinking. When you see him and he's stretching through what looks like a falling of debris.
Yeah, there's rubble coming.
Yeah, there's rubble, building. And he's got something in his hand.
When you can see beyond that too, that's Galactus, his leg or something. That's right next to the building.
Yeah, I don't know why he is in fishnet stockings. I mean,
they don't judge.
I'm not here to shame him.
Just You do you, Galactus.
I hope he has a big G on his belt. That's all I care about. He did in the first appearance have a big G on his belt buckle. I always bring that up because it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not from Earth. Why would the letter G mean anything to you?
Oops.
That's like the Thanos copter.
We see a shot of Sue getting really exhausted. Probably from trying to hold up rubble or something. But she's about to pass out. She's just exhausted.
Well, this is edited. The trailer's edited very well, because this is like the major stakes part of the trailer where you're seeing them all challenged. Like, this is them working their asses off. And she is like literally trying to hold up her shields, and she looks battle worn and it looks awesome.
Then we get a shot of Reed on TV saying, "We will protect you." This is why I think they know that Galactus is about to show up, and that's what this is about.
Oh,
so I don't know. But then we get this sort of like a post-credit tease after the title comes up of Galactus walking through the street, deserted streets of New York.
Jesus.
And it just looks amazing.
It looks amazing. So and good. This is one of those things where, they do it with the sound design, because he goes, "We're here to protect you," and the Fantastic Four, and everything kind of goes a little quiet, and you just hear the They've done this with Godzilla trailers and whatever. They did it with Jurassic Park. But here they cut to it, and you just see the street, and then this Galactus's boot. I'm just so ecstatic that they are not ashamed. The Tim Story movies are like, no one's going to accept a giant man with a tuning fork helmet. And I'm like, well, why not? We've read comics with him in it for like 40 years, 40 plus. Give us the dude in the tuning fork helmet. And they are.
Yeah.
There's just embrace comics or just go away. Embrace them, or
that should be a t-shirt. Embrace comics or go away.
Embrace comics or stop making comic book movies. If you are not prepared to say these are known characters and we see them in capes. No, capes are stupid. If you're thinking capes are stupid, leave. Go away.
That's another one. If you think capes are stupid, leave.
Because we have accepted them every time we've opened a comic.
Yes.
And we know it's not the real world.
When did this, what you refer to as comic book shame, when did this start?
Immediately after the 60s. Immediately after Batman, the TV series. Batman was a hit, but it was seen as campy. It was seen as, and it was, that's a kid's show. So in the 70s, when people are trying to make superhero stuff, and they were leaning on Marvel at the time, no one was doing, until Superman the movie, no one was doing DC, really, so other than cartoons. So they're like, okay, cool, Marvel characters are a little bit more hip, and they're a little bit more adult, and they don't have capes, except for Thor and Doctor Strange and a few others.
Yeah.
So it's like, Spider-Man and all that. And then from that point on, you want to put a serious twist, or you want adults to go to a comic book movie, you better get rid of those goofy outfits. X-Men comes along, and I loved X-Men, but the idea of them all in the matching black leather outfits, you can't have them have diversified outfits or anyone with a mask or half mask, because that's goofy. So let's put them in utilitarian matching jumpsuits, and I'm still there for it, because it's the X-Men. But they even make the joke about, what do you expect, yellow spandex? And you're like, well, yeah, you wore yellow for a lot of your career. You also had a cool brown and orange version of your outfit. You have a helmet that goes up into these ridiculous big old pointy ears, and I want that Wolverine. And then we get it a million years later in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah,
it looks awesome. It looks badass.
It looks fantastic. Yeah, it's like,
so that's the thing is, I think that thanks to Feige, thanks to a lot of the people who've been making the movies over the last several years, they're like, let's roll that back and embrace color. Again, you can still have people saving the world and getting the shit beat out of them and doing their best for humanity wearing bright colors like they do in the freaking comics. Wow, imagine that. Being truthful to the source material, I've never felt is a shameful thing. And John often defends, and it's okay with that. John loves what the movies do and realizes there's has to be compromise. You don't want to take it panel to panel. You don't want the exact dialogue from this to that. But there's also no shame in just saying, look, this is what people have known. So why do we want it altered? Why does that make it more respectable if Spider-Man showed up and he was just in some sort of jumpsuit thing and had some goggles, and you're like, yeah, because he's an actor. Actually, it's ticked me off a lot how in all those Raimi Spider-Man movies, he gets his mask ripped off about 80 times. Also, Captain America, though I respect that they almost always give him like a helmety mask thing, But he spends a lot of time in those movies with it off too, where he's in uniform, but he's fighting and you see handsome Chris Evans. They do it right. They do it very well. They don't take it away, but they're like, we'll balance it. And it's okay. I've enjoyed the compromises, but I just think that people are willing, audiences are willing, and they are testing the waters. How literal can we go with the source material? Mm-hmm. And Fantastic Four so far looks to be the closest, even over Superman, even though Superman, we keep talking about how fearless James Gunn is to be like, yeah, Metamorpho, bring it. Hawkgirl, yes. And I'm excited.
By the way,
yeah,
there was something I didn't realize is it was. I'm going to insert this into the our breakdown, which is already out. By the time you see this, our breakdown of the behind the scenes
prepare the breakdown
is
before
out
you insert it. It's okay. I'm just saying.
It's consensual. Oh, that's gross.
Make sure it's consensual. Yes.
Anyway,
what are you inserting?
There's that silhouetted shot of Superman with a bald character. We thought, oh, that's just Lex, and we moved on. Another channel I watch called Ping Pong Flicks. I don't know what the guy's actual name is, but he's very enthusiastic about the movie. I enjoy his stuff. But he pointed out, oh, that's Metamorpho, and he zoomed in on it, and you can see very clearly if you actually look at it, you can see the texture of his arm and his shorts. There's like, oh, that's Metamorpho.
That's Superman's awesome. Following. I bet that's the Stag Industries building, and either
Possibly.
They met or he busted him out or whatever.
And I gotta think that they work together at some point in the movie.
Oh, they will.
So. I do have a theory that maybe we're getting way off. We're done with the Fantastic Four now, apparently. I do have a theory that Luthor is perhaps exploiting Metamorpho at some point.
He may be exploiting all superpowered people.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what those cells are.
Right.
And so outside the Justice League, maybe he's got other folks in there like the White Martian, maybe Metamorpho.
And answer me this. Doesn't Metamorpho have the ability to turn into kryptonite?
He can turn in any element, any mineral.
It could be what happens
gas.
With the wounded Superman we see is that maybe Metamorpho was coerced into beating up Superman early with kryptonite fists.
This is again, keep mentioning my friend John that we do several podcasts with. John loves the way your brain works, but he always just shakes his head. He's like, Chad is always trying to figure out the plots in advance based on, and I'm like, that is Chad. Like, I think that's very cool that it's him and Metamorpho, and now you're weaving a whole plot that may never happen, but you're trying to figure it out. And I respect.
They call this on the internet. They call this theory crafting. I'm not the only.
You're a theory crafter.
I am very low rent theory crafter. You know who's Ryan Airy of Screen Crush is probably one of the biggest, and what's his name? Eric Voss on New Rockstars. He's probably the most notorious theory crafter. His theories, I don't think any of them have come true. And it's like people watch his video, but that's why people watch him. They're like, "Oh, Eric, that's a huge stretch." But they keep watching because it's just he's so enthusiastic about it.
No, I think that's awesome. I think that all would fit Luthor. I think that would all fit his plans. I am fully on board with just what I see as DC Comics Presents. That's what this movie feels like. I loved that comic. Robin, my brother, loved Brave and the Bold when in the 70s when we were kids, and that was the one where every month Batman teamed up with a different person from the DC universe. I love those two. They're great. Especially every time he teamed up with Aquaman and had to swim in the ocean with his big ass cape. Because I was like, how the hell is he able to do that? But anyway, I always loved those. But DC Comics Presents was the Superman version. And every month it was Superman teaming up with, he would have an issue with Batgirl. Superman and Batgirl solve a thing. Next one would be like Metamorpho, Jonah Hex, whoever. It would be like the weirdest combinations. And I loved it because it just underlines how big that universe is. And if they're not on the Justice League, if they're not teamed up in a team book, you would hardly ever see Superman cross paths with the Creeper, you know? But for one issue of DC Comics Presents, they would, and you'd be like, oh, that's awesome, man. So that movie that James Gunn's creating looks like, to me, like DC Comics Presents the movie where Superman's your main, but all these people existing in the same universe are all part of the plot, And
Mm-hmm.
some may help, some may hinder, some may just be dropped in as an Easter egg for something he's going to do later in a different movie or a TV show. I don't care, man. It's just like, I want to live there.
Yes, I know. But in theory, theory crafting aside, it's funny how people are still complaining, like, oh, there's so many characters in this movie and stuff. If you've been paying attention to what James has told us about this story, the other superheroes are kind of essential to the story he's telling, because he says this is a world where superheroes have been around for a long time, and kindness has kind of gotten swept under the rug. That it's become more of a business than just being good for the sake of being good. Superman is trying to set the example of being good for good's sake. And you can't do that if there's no other superheroes in the movie.
It's flipping the model, which is, as much as I always loved the idea, and post-Crisis on Infinite Earths at DC, the timeline, of course, everything got shifted to where Superman is not the first superhero. In my mind, Superman was always the first, and then they all came after.
Right.
But when they're like, we have to keep him 35 for all time, so he can't have shown up in 1938. So they would do things where Superman would go, oh man, those guys in World War II, those were my heroes. The Justice Society, oh man, I look up to those guys. And you're like, that shouldn't be the case. But I still like the idea that in a philosophical sense, they're flipping the model that superheroism has become, like you say, it's been corporatized. They're like, I assume, kind of like a police force, and they may enjoy helping people or saving people, but it's just like, we go do our job.
Yeah.
And Superman's a guy that's like, whoa, the message is important, and belief is important, and just being a decent human being is important.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that he stands out. Even if he wasn't the first, he's going to be something that others should emulate and aspire to. Yes. So that's the way it always should be. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man,
I would really love. We've touched on this before. It'd be great at some point to get like an Elseworlds thing where we see a different version of Superman who actually was the first superhero, and introduce them. Just make it period appropriate.
Well, they did that.
Start that universe from the 30s. Well, in the film, actually make movies that are in this world.
Oh, that'd be cool. John Byrne, who did the reboot in the 80s and was one of the most important of the Superman creators, and again, don't look him up online because he's a dick. Always hate it. He's, as far as I know, not problematic. He's just real assholey, but he's a great comic creator. That aside, he did an Elseworlds miniseries, and then he did 3 others because he couldn't stop. But he was like, that was the whole, it's called Superman Batman Generations. And it starts in 1938 with Superman appearing. And Batman shows up a year later. And then what he does is he follows them through the decades where the children take over and grandchildren take over. And he goes into the future of the Legion of Superheroes. And there's like a great grandchild of Batman on the team or whatever. And he allows Bruce Wayne to get old and die. He allows the original Superman to get old, but at a slower rate. And he, of course, marries Lois. They have kids. And then he just keeps following them. And he'll include, like, when Barry Allen would show up, like in the 60s or something like that. It's like, boom, there you go. There's the new Flash. There's a new Green Lantern. But they are like, I just met the original. I met Batman. And he's like, elderly. Hello, nice. How are you? It's nice. It's good. I don't feel so bad about my parents getting shot anymore. But it is that kind of nerdery where he just was like, what would the DC universe be like if it had originally started in 1938, and it becomes a legacy and characters take over and take over and take over.
They could. It depends on how nutty. I know they've got plenty on their plate already, but they could introduce like Earth, whatever it was in the comic. Which one was this? The Golden Age?
Earth 2.
Earth
I know
2.
It seems weird,
but is that?
That was
a Superman who came 50 years earlier or 60 years earlier.
Well, he's the original 1938 Superman.
Yeah.
The whole idea was that Earth 2 gets called 2, even though their hero showed up earlier, simply because Earth 1, which is the prime or the DC universe, they found that one first. It was Barry Allen, it was the Flash, that first broke through and found that other Earth. So he's like, mine is Earth 1. And they're like, whatever, youngster. Like, all the original Golden Age people are still there, and they're just older, and the Justice Society was never replaced by a Justice League. That's where the multiverse comes from, by the way. That Flash of Two Worlds, I don't remember what issue number of the Flash back in the 60s, but that is the name of the story. And that was the first one where they had the idea of, like, I think it was Julia Schwartz, who was one of the big editors there, was like, I miss the Golden Age guys. So what if the Flash breaks through a dimensional barrier with the speed and ends up on an Earth where the Justice Society is still around? And he gets to meet Jay Garrick, the original Flash. And he actually says, like, I used to read comic books about you. I called myself the Flash because of you, because of those comics I read. I didn't think you were real. So I always loved that. But Marvel and DC, basically that broke comics wide open because they could do whatever they wanted. You could have all kinds of alternate Earths. I believe there's one where Brendan Jones is slim and he's tan and incredibly wealthy. And he married Winona Ryder in 1996.
This leads me, just very quickly, I think you may have already answered this question. Our subscriber, Mike Ortega,
hi,
very cool dude. He had a really good question. I told him that we'd probably address on the show. He says, if you could base a Superman movie on only one comic book run, what would it be? And he says, for me, I think Jeff Johns' Superman Brainiac would make for an excellent movie.
That's a really good one. That's such a hard one. That's a hard question. I mean, you'd be tempted to say something like All-Star Superman, but at the same time, here's why I wouldn't do All-Star Superman. That seems like an obvious one, but because All-Star Superman is a celebration, like an accumulation that has a beginning and an end.
Yeah.
And I would not want to make a movie that's all about, hey, wasn't Superman great? And now it's over.
Yeah.
So it's too... Yeah. It closes things off. Superman for all seasons is great, but it might be too small scale. But it's so human. I love it.
I think the answer is kind of obvious and maybe kind of a boring answer. But Kingdom Come. I mean, come on. I mean, actually do it with the characters looking like they do in Alex Ross's drawing, where it's later years. And
I know. That's another elegy.
Great.
It's another thing where it's like goodbye to those great heroes. They don't die at the end of it.
No, we're talking just about a standalone film, and that could be pretty good.
That would be amazing.
I think could probably fit that story into 1 2-hour movie, maybe.
Yeah, you could.
So,
I don't.
And that's an easy answer, but I don't know.
No, that's an easy answer. But it's a fine one. Being a romantic, and it's not even the greatest storyline, but I wouldn't mind adapting for a film the proposal, the reveal of the identity, the wedding, because we haven't had that. We've had Superman and Lois is post. We don't see that.
They're
already established,
right?
Yeah,
we get bits.
Exactly, we get
little
bits.
Quick scenes. Yeah,
and this movie, I think as we found out, perhaps the relationship is already rolling. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't mind focusing on that. I would probably boost the threat because it's very 90s or early 2000s, that stuff. And I don't remember even what the villains were doing at the time. I just remember the actual relationship stuff. And me being that kind of a nerd, I'd like, why not just have a happy rom-com with Superman and all that? So yes, I know that's a lame answer. And I will say to our reader, Superman Brainiac is really good because Jeff Johns is amazing. Superman Brainiac, I believe, is right before he does the new Krypton arc, which is crazy cool because the Bottle City of Kandor, they are all enlarged. His aunt, as in Supergirl's mother, is the de facto ruler of the Kryptonians, and they're not evil. It's just that they're like, well, why don't we just take care of the humans and take over this planet, which is so nice. We all have your powers now. And they're like, and Zod is let back in to lead the armies. He's like, I won't fight you, Cal. In fact, I'd like for you to be in my army. And Cal actually goes, okay. And he does it to keep an eye on Zod. It's crazy interesting stuff. Highly recommended if you haven't read the new Krypton arc.
I mean, speaking of Brainiac too, this would be total wish fulfillment because you couldn't make this movie now unless it was animated or, like
AI.
really deep fake AI.
Yeah.
Really, maybe not an AI, but just really elaborate effects because there's no point in making it if you don't have Christopher Reeve. But yeah, Superman 78.
I know.
Get David Bowie as Brainiac and everybody, get all the actors back.
Oh, it's so cool.
That would be amazing, but you can't do it.
I know, and it is something where every single family of every single person we're talking about would have to sign off.
Yeah.
I had to say, you can use their likeness, find a voice actor that sounds like them or whatever. By the way, I'm playing the new Indiana Jones game, which came out like a year ago, but it finally came out for PlayStation.
Yeah.
The guy who does the voice of it, I'm like, Jesus, he sounds exactly.
Oh, cool.
Dead on Harrison Ford.
Cool.
And it's like playing a movie. So, yes, that's the Great Circle, Indiana Jones.
What's the MacGuffin in this story?
Well, I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
I have purposely avoided spoilers. Right now, I'm at the early parts of the game because it just came out on PlayStation, and I'm tracking down a mummified cat that has been stolen from the museum, and it's going to lead to some big thing. I'm now in Rome. Personally, this is me from Rome. I found an Airbnb in Rome that looks exactly like my studio apartment. It's very comfy. They actually have the Captain America shield. I was like, what? How'd you know what would make... No, just joking. Anyway, highly recommended play if you haven't played it. The graphics are great, and you play as Indiana Jones, and it's all I've ever wanted. I crack that whip. I give my boss the slip.
I don't.
Step on a crack. Break your mama's back.
Yeah. Step on a crack. I always love the way he says crack and that. He's like, step on
I
a
like
crack,
the way they
crack.
vocalize everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good. Anyway, so we got way off topic. I will say, I think we're still excited about Superman.
I think we are.
Fantastic Four, we're a little iffy on. Yeah. Just a joke. Good God, man. Back to that trailer. It looks amazing. If you haven't seen it, watch it another 18 times like we have watched it a million times.
And tonight, this is in the past for you guys, but tonight.
What's tonight?
Tonight.
What?
You know what tonight is?
No, I don't.
Tonight is Andor. The first three episodes of Andor drop tonight. Which
I got a tour.
Andor season 2 has been getting absolutely just across the board raving reviews.
I can't wait for
everybody who's seen it.
I forgot that they literally just right after Daredevil.
It's tonight.
Oh, dude, I won't be able to watch it for like 2 days because I do a tour tonight. Then I got to watch a movie for John's podcast tomorrow. I have to watch The Mummy with Tom Cruise. We're that far up in time now. Yeah,
so sorry.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then,
thanks, John.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow afternoon I'll be able to watch Mando before I take out another tour.
I'll be sure
Thursday will be the first day I get to just chill and watch stuff. So
I'll be sure to message you and spoil everything.
Yeah,
if that's cool.
You just go C-3PO. No.
Screenshot after screenshot. Fucking stop. Block.
Oh no, they destroyed Kashyyyk. No, the Wookiee homeworld. No. Anyway, I am very excited. Thanks for letting me know. Only now I'm depressed because I can't see it till.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, whatever. I'm just busy. That's all it is. I'm making that money. I'm making that sweet green.
That's important.
Makes my hands do this. So, guys, thank you so much again for listening to us talk frame by frame of something. If you're not excited about the Fantastic Four, I still love you, but I don't understand you.
Yeah.
And on that note, Peace Apps out.